Hello, my name is Michael J. Kavanaugh. Today we're going to talk about quality of service, or QoS for short. What is QoS? Why should you care about QoS? And finally, how does QoS work? Let's relate this back to something that we can all identify with, sitting in traffic. Let's say that you, me, a couple thousand of our closest friends are all driving down the road. This many cars on the road, we're going to create a traffic jam, and we're going to sit and stop and go traffic. We'll eventually get to our destination, but it'll take a little while for us to do it, but we'll get there. Let's assume that as we're driving along, we hear sirens. We look in our rearview mirror. We see an ambulance coming. What do? By the rules of the road, we move over to let the ambulance through. If we have to add a couple more minutes to our travel time, it's not really a matter of life or death. The ambulance can't make that same claim. Make sense? So let's relate this back to a data network. Let's assume that we have two offices. I'm going to call one of them Atlanta and one of them Miami. In my Atlanta office, I've got a router with a LAN. A LAN can be made up of one or more switches. In my Miami office, I've got a router and a LAN, which is also made up of one or more switches. And then between the two, I've got some kind of wide area network. Let's assume that I've got PCs and servers on both sides. What that means now is I have traffic flowing back and forth between Atlanta and Miami. As more and more traffic enters the network, I've got the possibility of creating traffic jams along the way. Eventually my data traffic will get there, similar to us in our cars. We'll eventually get there, but it may take a bit longer. In a data world, that's not a huge deal. If you think about it takes a couple extra seconds or so to get an email, we can live with that. Let's add to that. Let's assume that we want to run unified communications. So now I have an IP phone. IP phones on both sides, and I want to have a conversation between the two. My IP phone traffic is going to follow the same path. Now let's assume that the IP traffic though hits this traffic jam, and he's now paired up here and here with my data traffic. It's all now congested. This presents a problem. At this point, I've got a situation where my voice traffic is going to be out too long or sit in a queue too long to where it's not going to be received at the other side. So how do we get around that? We get around that similar to the ambulance. In the ambulance world, all the cars moved over. What if we could take our data traffic and have it also move over to let the voice through? That's called quality of service. Okay? So the next question is, why do you care about quality of service? Well, what happens when all of this voice traffic pools? What ends up happening is either the voice traffic won't make it in a specified time to where it's discarded at the other end, or packets are dropped. And if packets are dropped, that means we may have a clip in our conversation. So some of my words will not get to you, or some of your words will not get to me, or we can drop the connection altogether. So without quality of service, I have no way to prioritize that voice traffic and make sure that he always goes. If you're going to run any kind of real-time protocol such as voice, you need to make sure that you have quality of service. Make sense? Okay, let's look at how does it work. We had said that our LAN is made up of one or more multiple switches. Let's assume that I have two switches here in Atlanta. My phone is plugged into one switch, he's plugged into another switch, and then up to my router. As that packet enters the first switch, that first switch must look at that packet and determine, is he a voice packet, yes or no? If he is, then I need to make sure that I move my data aside and let this packet go first. It goes to the next switch. He makes the same determination. Is this a voice packet, yes or no? If yes, move my data aside and send my voice out. He sends it up to the router. The router does the same thing. Identify the traffic. Is it voice traffic? Yes or no? If yes, send him first. all the way down the line. It is a hop-by-hop configuration. And what I mean by that is every single piece of gear along the line has to look at that packet and determine, is he voice? And if so, put him in my priority. We can relate that also back to the ambulance, where each individual car on the road saw the ambulance and on his own moved over to obey the rules of the road. So in a nutshell, QoS is a way to prioritize one type of traffic over another and make sure that it gets priority treatment across your network. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.